Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the State of the University. You know, we haven't done a formal State of the University speech since October 2019 because we had the pandemic intervene shortly thereafter. I'm glad it's back. I hope you are as well. But the hiatus and Frank's retirement has given us a little bit of an opportunity to reconfigure some things and do some things differently. And so today what I plan to do is give a 25 minute talk, but there are 2 videos embedded in that, so it's really not that long, highlighting some of the achievements from the last year, sharing census data with you from last week. And then I'm going to move over to this area over here that we've set up with 3 chairs and invite our new Executive Vice President, Zora Mulligan, and our Interim Provost, John Jasinkski, to join me. And then we'll do some question and answer from there. They will share some of the work they have been doing in their first 3 months on campus. And then we'll open it up for you all to ask questions on any topic that's on your mind. As always, there are 3 ways you can ask questions. They're on the slide. If you don't want to ask a question yourself, you can write it on a piece of paper. You can send it via social media, and Suzanne Shaw, our Vice President for Marketing and Communications, will ask the question. Or you can just stand up as we used to do in the olden days, and a mic will come to you and you can ask a question that way. If you want to ask me something or give me feedback privately, you are welcome to just send me an email. I read every email I get, and I will respond to any email that comes as a result of our State of the University talk today. So, let's begin. And I would start off by saying we had some great successes last year. Our fundraising set a record for the 3rd year in a row. We raised over $30 million for the first time in the history of the university. Our external funding between grants, contracts, and fundraising exceeded $60 million for the 2nd year in a row. We renamed the arena, the Great Southern Bank Arena, and this was really important to me. It had been on my to-do list for several years. Fully paid off the 48% of the arena that Mr. Hammonds had promised to fund. We received $80 million to renovate and expand our major science building from the federal and state government. Just so you know, this money is designated for this project and this project only and cannot be used for ongoing expenses, but is going to be transformative, I believe, for the College of Natural and Applied Sciences. We plan to break ground in December and start construction next semester. Our state appropriations exceeded or moved over $100 million for the first time in our history, and we had other advocacy successes that are listed on this slide here. And maybe most importantly, we were recognized as a doctoral granting university by the state of Missouri and the Higher Learning Commission, in part because we bestowed our 1,000th doctoral credential last year, which is a milestone in and of itself. For a fuller recap of last year, we have prepared, as always, our What's New at MSU video. You are the first group of people that are going to see it. It is narrated by our own Student Government Association President, Colin Weber, who's right down here. Give Colin a big hand. Let's play the film.
I see every door as an opportunity because they're a gateway to new environments and ideas. Whether they're open or closed, they represent what's possible if we just go through them. At Missouri State, our focus is on opening doors to welcome students everywhere. This is our house. Together, we've made it a home. So come on in and stay a while. This is what's new at MSU. Opening the doors for students to reach higher education continued to be a priority. New scholarships and criteria eliminated barriers. So did new partnerships that make it easier to transfer to Missouri State. Additionally, ventures with Amazon, Burrell Behavioral Health, and Springfield Public Schools will help us better connect to our community and boost Southwest Missouri's workforce. Springfield Public Schools opened the Ag Academy Magnet School at our Dar Agricultural Center. We also opened our doors to provide workspace for the Springfield Daily Citizen publication and partnered with AmeriCorps to improve food security. More than 5,000 students joined Maroon Nation as Missouri State graduates. We took a big step in establishing our footprint as a newly designated doctoral granting university. In fact, we awarded the 1,000th doctoral degree in school history and graduated our first Bear with a professional doctorate in defense and strategic studies. The Graduate College set an enrollment record and earned a spot among the 10 best online master's programs in the country. That's just one of several academic programs that picked up major recognitions. The College of Business again ranked among the best in the nation, that were spurred on by another successful ad team project in this year's national competition. The team was also awarded an impressive grant through the Department of Homeland Security to further develop last year's Fuse campaign. Meanwhile, the Department of Media, Journalism, and Film claimed top rankings internationally from the Broadcast Education Association. Students shined individually too. Recent graduate Christy Osborne earned the Teacher of the Year award in Monette, a point of pride for new College of Education Dean Dr. Barry Tinkler. A trio of biology graduate students secured international grants for their research on endangered turtles, while 22 students from the College of Humanities and Public Affairs thrived at the Midwest Model United Nations Conference. The Future Business Leaders of America chapter advanced to the national level, taking home first place in 2 categories and placing in many others. And Cassidy McCandless was named the 2022 Student of the Year, determined by the American Academy of Physician Assistants. The foundation set another fundraising record, with more than $61 million in gifts and grants, including a $5.5 million naming gift for Great Southern Bank Arena. Major gifts from alumni and friends also allowed us to dedicate Heights House, the Ann Campeter Health Sciences Hall, and the Corolla Arts Exhibition Center in downtown Springfield. That's not to mention a fun addition to Plaster Student Union, a place where students can make their statement by playing esports. Our governmental advocacy efforts paid off too, with almost $100 million in federal and state appropriations to fund major projects. We also picked up more than $28 million for projects with partners at the Roy Blunt Jordan Valley Innovation Center. We said farewell to longtime colleagues and welcomed new faces. Dr. Frank Einhelig, Wes Pratt, and Dr. Jim Baker retired after decades of service to the university. Zora Mulligan and Dr. John Jasinkski came to us from outside the university, while Brad Bodenhausen and Dr. Dennis Lancaster earned promotions to leadership roles. This was a banner year for the Bears on the field too, with championships galore. Student athletes led the charge to a second-place finish in the Missouri Valley Conference All-Sports Trophy. Bobby Petrino continued to build a solid foundation on the gridiron with a second-place conference finish and another NCAA playoff appearance. The Lady Bears garnered an at-large bid to the NCAA tournament and picked up a postseason win. We said farewell and thank you to Coach Mox and welcomed new head coach Beth Cunningham to Springfield. Basketball head coach Dana Ford's squad finished second in the Valley and earned a bid to the NIT. The baseball and softball Bears both brought home conference tournament trophies and NCAA appearances. On the pitch, it was a year of transition for both soccer programs, as legendary head coaches John Leamy and Rob Brewer retired. The men's squad took home the MVC regular season and tournament titles. After the season, assistants Michael Siebold and Kirk Nelson were elevated to head coaches for the men's and women's teams respectively. And women's swimming and diving won its 6th straight and 18th Valley title in 20 years. Anna Miller became our first women's swimmer to make the NCAA meet. With your help, we're continuing to open the minds, hearts, and dreams of thousands of students every year.
That's why we're here, to build a bright future for our city and state.
You're a Citizen Bear too. What doors will you open? We can't wait to find out.
Good. Since we made that video, we've added another new member of our leadership team. Dr. Algerian Hart is our new interim chief diversity officer. He's already at work aligning college DEI work and creating a scorecard to hold us all accountable for diversity work. Last year, we received $9.4 million in new money from increases in tuition and fees and increases in state ongoing appropriations. You guys know tuition and fees and appropriations provide 98% of our operating budget. We actually dedicated more than that amount to increasing compensation because we reallocated some existing money as well. Increasing compensation has been and continues to be our #1 priority, and I think we did as much as we possibly could last year. Remember that we will also be making retention payments on December 31st to all full-time employees who were with us in April of this year, and we are funding that through university reserves. Compensation is directly connected to ongoing operation budgets. So compensation is directly connected to our enrollment, and it is directly connected to state appropriations. And so that leads me to the next topic, and that is our enrollment. Fall enrollment numbers finalized last week, and I want to share those with you. Frankly, they have improved since opening day, and we appreciate the good work of the entire team that has been attacking this issue. We have 23,618 students on the Springfield campus this fall. That's down 311 students from last year. Our continuing undergraduates decreased by 517 students, and we have a smaller freshman class joining us this year than a year ago. On the positive side, graduate enrollment set an enrollment record for the second year in a row. Our international students are returning, and we also grew in dual credit students. But dual credit students taking courses with us in high school, don't fully replace the lost revenue from having fewer full-time undergraduates. Dual credit students typically are taking 1 or 2 classes with us instead of 12 to 15 hours, and they're paying about 1/3 of the tuition rate that our full-time undergraduate students are paying. The primary enrollment concern is in the decrease in full-time domestic undergraduate students. So I said that was 517 this year. If we look back over the last 5 years, our high water mark, 2017 for the university, we were down 3,810 undergraduate students in that time period. That's a 22% decrease in that category over the last 5 years. Retention also impacts enrollment, as you saw in the continuing student numbers. This slide shows you our first to second year retention rate over the last 7 years. So the last 2 years are pandemic years. Clearly the pandemic has impacted our retention rate, and it did not bounce back on its own this fall. So new strategies are called for if we are to hit the goal the Board of Governors has set for us, which is 82%. This is our last enrollment slide. This is a summary slide, and you can see that credit hours have declined more, 3.6%, more than head count. It's because our mix of students is different. Remember, we say we have more international students, we have more graduate students, we have more dual credit students. Those students typically are taking fewer classes and hence the credit hour decline is more significant than the headcount decline. That has a revenue impact on us. The revenue impact for the decrease of 3.6% in credit hours is $6 million. So we are short that amount for this budget year, FY23, because we budgeted flat enrollment. In other words, we budgeted the same number and same mix of students for this fall as we had last fall, and we didn't measure up to that. This next slide shows where we are in the FY23 budget, and so we're not down $6 million. That's the enrollment hole, that top red number, because we have offsets in other revenue producing categories. We have more interest income because interest rates are higher this year than there were last, and we have saved money by prepaying our Mosher's contribution all at once up front. So, in the year that we are in, we're down about $3.25 million. That's where we're behind what we had projected the revenue to be. But we can manage that shortfall this year without any cuts to people, without any cuts to programs, because we have almost $6 million in open positions now. In other words, we have budgeted money for people that we are not spending, and we have the ability to reallocate it to fund the budget as is without making any changes. If we think beyond this year, if we think to next year, FY24, there are some other challenges looming. We funded this year's pension increase, which was $2.9 million, with one-time money from the legislature. They appropriated that money for us to use to fund our pension increase. We don't know if they will do that again next year. We'll advocate for it, but we don't know if that will happen or not. And then just last month, the Mosher's board voted yet another increase in our pension contribution, which will cost us about $1 million. Again, we don't know if we have to fund that ourselves or if there will be potentially an appropriation source to do that. And the last item you see there, the $1.2 million item, if the decrease in students continues next year, we'll likely have to move some money over to the auxiliary system to meet our bond covenant. For now, Zora, John, and I have agreed that they will work to cut $5 million from academic budgets for FY24, the budget beginning July of next year. Of that amount, we anticipate we can reinvest $1.8 million to help grow the university and become more efficient in a changing environment. So looking at this slide, that $5 million will shore up the known decrease at the top piece, and then the remainder of that cut will be going back in to invest into programs that give us an opportunity to grow or systems that give us an opportunity to grow. However, we cannot just cut expenses if we are to thrive. Dr. Jasinkski often says we can't cut our way to success, and we all agree with that. It is also important that we grow revenue by increasing enrollment, and we can do that. We've done it many times in the past. In fact, several programs grew significantly this year with creative, intentional strategies. Together, we must re-examine our recruiting strategies, explore new markets, develop and expand employer, international, and community college partnerships, better retain the students we have, start new academic programs, invest in programs that have the potential to grow, and see if we can reinvigorate those programs that seem to be underperforming. This will be our emphasis as a university for the next 2 years, and that work is already underway. That work of increasing revenue while decreasing costs will be led by Zora and John, and we will continue that conversation shortly with them and share with you the progress they have made to date. I want to end this part of the presentation by thanking you for your good work. the last 2.5 years while we were in the pandemic. You went out of your way to help students. I know this because we surveyed them regularly during the pandemic, and they named hundreds of you, hundreds of faculty and staff, as being critical to their success. Our students will never forget your extraordinary efforts, and neither will I. I have one last video to show you. It features one of those extraordinary employees, Dr. Melissa Bledsoe of the Dar College of Agriculture, who just happens to hold the Clif and Gail Smart Professorship of Agriculture. But more importantly, she's on the cover of this year's Mind's Eye, which is now out. Let's watch.
Much of your health depends on the ground beneath your feet. The soil's nutrients feed fruits and vegetables as they grow. These nutrients also transfer into the grasses and grains our meat sources consume. If soils are depleted or fields are in unfavorable conditions, farmers must change the composition of the soil to continue producing quality food, because many of the nutrients transfer to your plate. Are you hungry yet? As a plant physiologist, a lot of my research projects explore how we can improve the soil. This includes processes that enrich it with a variety of nutrients through soil additives. Sometimes I study how crops react to and absorb these nutrients, and how much healthier the crops are to eat, or how much more efficient they are to grow. Other times, I investigate how to solve real problems that have crept into our crops or cattle. This includes things like fungus and fescue grass, because it can be toxic to the cattle that graze in the pasture. Or addressing the risk of grass tetany in cattle, which can be fatal, by increasing specific nutrients in the soil, making the fescue safer to consume. In the Carls Hall greenhouse at Missouri State, we've built a system to plant small crops in containers for our research. We can add different nutrients to the soil mixture or into the watering system to test how the variables affect the results. In the last few years, we've been using hydroponic systems, which allow us even more control over these experiments. On the larger scale, we participate in plantings and growth studies at the Jernigan Ranch as part of a major USDA grant. Here, I'm collaborating with colleagues and students from across the university to optimize land to grow trees and grass together in a way that benefits both. But the growth of those trees and forages don't happen overnight. So we study the soil, grasses, leaves, height, and production at multiple times per year. This is to better understand each variable and its relationship to growth as we cultivate this land to reach its full potential. Whether it's on a large or small scale, I want to help the agricultural industry provide the highest quality products, and it all starts here.
So at this time, I'll invite Zora and John to join me on stage, and I will begin the questioning, and then we'll open it up for everyone else so that we can make sure we're talking about what you want to talk about. All right. Can we hear me? Is this working? We good? All right. Good. So let's start with introductions. I know that most people are familiar with your names by now. You've interacted with many. You've been here about 3 months. But why don't we begin by having each of you introduce yourselves and tell the group why you wanted to be part of the leadership team here at Missouri State.
Sure, absolutely. It's a pleasure to be back here. I'm Zora Mulligan. I'm the Executive Vice President. I've been on board since about July 1st, so I'm right at that 3-month mark. Why I chose to come to Missouri State, I come to this position from kind of a unique orientation. All of my jobs since I graduated from law school have been statewide jobs. And so during that time, I've really had an opportunity to gain a love for the state that I call home and that I grew up in. And then more specifically, in the last 15 years that I've been working with public higher education to really gain a respect for what our public colleges and universities do for the regions they serve. So I'm an Ozarks native, and even though I'm not a Missouri State alum, I've always had a huge appreciation for the role that Missouri State plays in terms of lifting up not only Springfield and the Ozarks, but the entire state. And so initially, a lot of my attraction was really to come here and be a part of a leadership team that is so important to an institution that's so important to the part of the state that I love the most. Since I've gotten here, though, I've had a chance to meet a lot of students, a lot of faculty members and staff, and so I've started to see that attraction of, the people here are absolutely phenomenal here. Generally, when you work at Missouri State, you're here because you care about the region the same way I do. You care about students the same way I do. And so, it started as an appreciation for the state, and then the region, and then the institution has really become one of appreciation for the people.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I would first say that I've had a unique perspective of statewide higher education in Missouri, and really have seen Missouri State from afar, and really have wondered about the culture and the people, and have just witnessed the beauty of your growth, really not just for the last 30 years, but certainly during President Smart's tenure. And so that was intriguing to me. Also, I knew a couple of members of the leadership team, Steve Folkart, Ryan DeBook, and so on. Obviously, long-term relationship with Zora and being able to work on the professional side of so many different activities. Those were draws. As I was talking to Clif, it was very obvious to me with regard to his vision and what he sees in terms of transformation over the next several years, and really working from a position of strength today, but still being able to address changes that are needed in the system. That really was of value to me. And then finally, I would just say, Clif, to be honest with you, our relationship goes back many, many years, and two of the longest serving leaders in the state. And we've had so many different opportunities to visit by phone, in person, travel throughout the state and beyond. And it was pretty obvious that, in terms of our views of higher education, our values click in, and that was very important to me.
Very good. Zora, your primary focus to date has been on the enrollment side, recruitment, retention, employer partnerships, etc. Tell us first, in terms of structural changes, where are we on that? What have we done?
Sure, absolutely. So those of you who were here for my on-campus interview way back in April will remember when somebody asked me, how would you address budget cuts? I said the first thing that you would do is try really hard to avoid them. And so a lot of what I'm doing here is to try to make sure that this time next year we're in a better position and we're able to talk about a different kind of budget. So that takes a lot of change to come with it, and in some cases it requires some structural change. So one of the keys to developing new markets or to growing enrollment is developing those new markets. So I've been working really closely with Brad Bodenhausen and his team to stand up an employer partnerships team that is going to involve some structural changes, but will really improve our ability to connect with the community, with businesses both large and small throughout the region, and also to make sure that students have great experiences with those employers. So that's one set of changes, and I think it's one that's going to really begin to make a big difference. One of the early examples we've seen from that has been in partnership with the Macquarie College, so starting to see some great conversations with our local healthcare providers that are much more robust and much more specific than they've been in the past, so it's a great opportunity. The other big change has been changing over the enrollment management team who used to report to student affairs to now report to me, the executive vice president. That's an important change for a couple of different reasons. One is it just really reflects the strategic importance of having a healthy, vital enrollment. You saw the numbers that Clif showed earlier. It's a really, really important measure. It also is a good connection between the role that that group plays in terms of academic affairs and the work that they do on an everyday basis. So it's a great great partnership, but I think the long-term benefit is obviously going to need to be increased enrollment. So we've done a lot of work to get our plans together to begin recruiting the fall class of 2023.
So one of the things your team has been working on in that is a new scholarship that we're announcing today. Tell us about what that is, how it came about, and why we're rolling it out now.
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of the most exciting things that I have done in my career, and certainly during my time here. There's a new scholarship that we're announcing today, which is called the Mo Access Award. The Mo Access Award is going to cover the full cost of tuition and fees for students who are Pell eligible. So all of our new students next fall, whether they're a transfer student or a new freshman, are going to see their entire tuition and fee bill covered. That is a huge leap forward for us when we think about the incredibly important role that affordability plays for all of those students who are out there and trying to figure out, is college worth it? Can I make it work for me? This is a really, really important step for them. So it is also very important, when we think about our overall enrollment strategies, Missouri State has an essential role as a statewide institution. So we are always going to recruit lots and lots of students from St. Louis, Kansas City, Jeff City, Columbia, and everywhere in between, but we also have a really important responsibility to the community here. And so this award will be an important step forward, again, for students who are from Springfield or from Nixa or even from West Plains, to think like, man, I really want to go to college. I'm not sure I can afford it. This award will really give them an opportunity to say, absolutely, yes, I can.
Yeah, because under this plan, if you're Pell eligible at any level, and you're living in Southwest Missouri, Springfield, Willard, Nixa, Republic, Rogersville, stay at home and go to school here, and all tuition and fees will be paid for.
Absolutely.
That's a game changer.
It's a big deal.
John, your primary focus has been on academic programs, academic budgets. We saw a slide earlier in the presentation that detailed a loss of 3,800 undergraduate students over the last 5 years. Talk about your role from the academic side in working on that, turning that around.
Yeah, I'll first start talking about not my role specific. I'll come to that in a moment, but I think it's important that we all understand that as we think about recruitment, retention to a great university like Missouri State University, it's everyone's role. I've long talked about everyone as a recruiter, everyone as a retainer, no matter our jobs at the university, because every interaction we have with a student, with a stakeholder, with a prospective parent, doesn't matter who that person is, every interaction matters as we think about first time new in college, we think about transfer students and all of our student segments. So first and foremost, I just want to make sure that, Zora and I are leading kind of initiatives and so on, but it's really us all together and uplifting recruitment, retention, and beyond. In terms of my role, I think first and foremost, I look at programming and I think about partnerships and then performance. So those three areas. First, the programming side. We have to understand our academic programs, and I'm on that journey right now, so asking a lot of questions, traveling, we're going out on campus and well beyond, and Marilyn Golden's been great at filling up our calendars by request, mostly. But bottom line is to really understand the true excellence that we have across our academic programs, undergraduate and graduate. But beyond that, teaching, research, and service, we need to ask questions about the strong programs. How can we make them even more strong than they are today, especially if they have capacity? And for those programs that might be in pretty good shape, how can we continue to uplift them? And for those that are underperforming, what can we do? What's our job to help address that? So that's the programming side. The partnership side, EAB, we already have a contract with the National Research Organization, EAB, and so they know institutions, they know what works with regard to academic programming. We need to partner with them to understand the relative strengths, to do market studies. I know several of our deans are doing market studies with regard to what possibilities are ahead for new academic programs, and we have to focus there. And then finally, performance, really asking the questions, how are we performing? Not just financially, but well beyond that. And what's the set of metrics that we use, and how do we use those annually? So those are some of the ways that we'll be involved.
So talk a little bit about processes for attacking for the current year, $3.2 million budget deficit, and then that reallocation that we've mentioned.
Yeah, and I think that ties into my previous answer a little bit, is understanding the programming and especially the performance. And we're really asking deans and department heads and so many others a lot of questions. What performance drivers really set the stage for us? How healthy are we? What areas probably can we be more efficient in with regard to academics, academic administration? And so I've said in many meetings already, starting with the home shop, right, academic administration and looking at our budget. We have to do that first, and we're doing that first. But then looking across the colleges and the department areas. Stop doing is something that I've done previously in many different lives, I suppose. And I think universities and other organizations, healthcare, K-12, and so on, we tend to add things on all the time, and rightfully so, but then we don't take a pause and say, what do we stop doing or what do we pause to do? And there's an art and science to that, because you can't keep doing everything, and you can save not just money but time and resources in terms of the people side. So those are some of the elements we'll be doing.
For both of you, talk to me about, are you optimistic that we can be successful in this? And if so, why?
Yes, I am definitely optimistic. I mean, one, I think, positive indicator is the announcement of a new scholarship. You asked, how did we, come to the decision to create that new award? It really started with the data, just looking at where have we seen, steep declines over the last couple of years. Certainly, we've seen declines in terms of the number of students who are Pell eligible, and so this is a good data-driven way to think about recruiting them back. I'm also optimistic when I think about the people involved. There's a lot of really, really good conversation happening right now, not only within admissions, but also with all of their partners around campus to think about how do we really re-envision the way we do recruiting. And then also, just as importantly, how do we think about retention? And as Dr. Jasinkski said, how do we make sure everyone understands that we all have a critical role in making sure that students who come here can be successful? So I'm very optimistic.
Yeah, no, I'm not optimistic, Cliff. Awkward silence, awkward. President Smart saying, oh my gosh, what's he saying? I'm really optimistic, absolutely, positively, and here's why. First of all, it's our people. I mean, Zora said it earlier, but, as my wife Denise and I have gotten to know many of you, the community, it's overwhelming, very positive and fantastic. So start with the people side, right? Secondly, it's your DNA. It's our DNA. It's our resilience. Born in 1905, Missouri State has gone through so much. Year in, year out, decade in, decade out, across centuries and so on. And what I would say is Missouri State's always been better on the other side. And so you use that as a baseline and say, we'll do it again. So that's part of it. I also think that as we reflect, Zora here 3 months, myself 2.5, we have seen very vivid imagery and very specific examples of you. Our leaders, our department heads, our college deans, our faculty members, staff members, asking questions and thinking about enrollment in different ways and retention and really even the budget side and the culture. And when you see that very vividly and very specifically, and I can give you a lot of examples, you say, wow, people are ready. And we've heard that, but we're seeing it, and yes, very, very optimistic. No question about it.
And what I would add to that is we're going into this from a position of strength. Not only great people, the largest reserve we've ever had, a board that's tremendously supportive, yes, and leadership that is enthusiastic about changing how we do things and reinventing ourselves in what frankly is a different world now than it was in 2019. And I'm so excited that these two people are with me on this journey. We've got most of our leadership team, our academic leadership team with us today, and there really is that sense of we can do this. John, wrap us up.
I'll just offer one last item, and we talked about this amongst the dean's team last week, Zora, I think, and some other teams, but bottom line is, as we go through this year and beyond, let's not kid ourselves. It's going to be difficult relative to the work that we're doing and the work that we're injecting and the questions and the change and all that. So, we are in a position of strength. It's going to be, difficult at times, but it's all for the right reason and getting us to not just the enrollment and retention that we deserve and the budget conditions, but we really do have an opportunity. The sector is changing so dramatically, as most of you know. And we have a choice, we really do. We can sit around and say, we've been great for a long time and, that's us. Or we can say, you know what, we're going to use that as a base and move forward. And it's our choice, and I know that our choice will be to move forward.
And with that, we've ended it. I'll see you at the reception, 4 o'clock. Thank you, everyone.